Does authority truly come from a higher power? This question has shaped political thought for centuries. In the realm of politics, the divine theory of the state is a fascinating doctrine. It asserts that a ruler's authority is not of this earth, but instead is granted directly from a higher power, typically a deity or god. This implies that rulers are appointed, sanctioned, or chosen by divine will, and as a result, they are entitled to govern without question or challenge from their subjects. This theory, dubbed the divine right of kings, gained prominence in Europe during the medieval and early modern periods, particularly in the 16th and 17th centuries. Advocates of this theory claimed that monarchs were chosen by God to rule, and their authority was absolute and beyond reproach. There are several key principles to this theory. Firstly, the divine mandate. This holds that rulers are believed to be appointed or chosen by a higher power to govern their subjects. Secondly, the absolute authority. This principle states that the authority of the ruler is absolute and not subject to questioning or limitations by those they govern. Thirdly, there's the lack of accountability. Rulers, according to this principle, are not accountable to earthly authorities or the will of the people, as their legitimacy is derived from divine sanction. Fourthly, there's the inherent right to rule. This right to rule is seen as inherent in the ruler, transcending any earthly institutions or laws. Finally, there's the unquestionable authority. The ruler's decisions and commands are to be obeyed without hesitation or challenge, as they are considered to reflect divine will. This concept of divine right was often used to justify the monarchy's power, allowing rulers to consolidate authority and rule without being subject to checks and balances from other branches of government or the consent of the governed. The belief in divine right provided a theological basis for the king's authority and served as a means to maintain social order and obedience. The divine right of kings provided a theological basis for authority, but it was not without its detractors. Opening. As time progressed, new ideologies emerged that challenged the divine theory of the state. Throughout history, political thought has been a dynamic and ever-evolving field. In the face of the divine theory, several ideologies rose to prominence, emphasizing different principles and challenging the absolute authority of rulers. Firstly, let's delve into constitutionalism. This ideology advocates for a government bound by a constitution. The Constitution outlines the powers and limitations of rulers, creating a system of checks and balances. It guarantees certain rights to citizens, ensuring that a ruler's power is not absolute, but rather subject to the rule of law. This marked a significant departure from the divine theory, where the ruler's authority was considered unlimited and unquestionable. Next in line is liberalism, a political thought that places a high premium on individual rights and equality. Liberal thinkers rejected the notion of infallible rulers, advocating instead for accountable governance. They championed the cause of personal freedom and equal opportunity, arguing against the divine theory's lack of accountability. Lastly, we have democracy, a revolutionary concept that turned the tables on traditional political thought. Democracy emphasizes the importance of consent from the governed and popular sovereignty. It posits that rulers derive their legitimacy not from divine sanction, but from the will of the people. The rise of democratic principles was a direct rebuttal to the divine theory, which held that the right to rule was inherent in the ruler, not subject to the will of the governed. The emergence of these ideologies gradually eroded the influence of the divine theory of the state. They championed the principles of accountability, the rule of law, and the consent of the governed, challenging the absolute authority and the lack of accountability that characterized the divine theory. Closing. The rise of these ideologies marked a shift towards more representative and accountable forms of governance. These changes paved the way for the political landscape as we know it today, where rulers are answerable to their people and power is often distributed across various branches of government to prevent absolute rule. In today's world, the divine theory of the state has largely been replaced by other political philosophies. Constitutionalism, liberalism, and democracy have taken center stage, advocating for principles such as individual rights, equality, and government accountability. The emphasis has shifted from absolute authority to the consent of the governed, with popular sovereignty now viewed as the key to a ruler's legitimacy. However, this does not mean that the divine theory of the state has been completely erased from the political landscape. In some societies and cultures, elements of this theory still persist, albeit in more subtle forms. For instance, the notion of leaders being chosen or sanctioned by a higher power is sometimes used to justify their authority or actions. Nevertheless, the broad trend in modern political thought is away from divine sanction and towards earthly accountability and representation. While the divine theory of the state may no longer hold sway, its influence on political thought and history is undeniable.